Craig McIndoe is the chef at Moo Moo, which is a well-named steak restaurant. Good morning, Craig.
Morning, Deb. How are you going?
Very well, thanks. Look, thanks so much for coming in. Now, really, the beef industry is having the fight of its life at the moment, trying to hold its credibility against all comers. And indeed, it's probably been the subject of big discussions this morning in caucus in Canberra. So how is all of that affecting you as a steakhouse operator?
Well, I think I've had a chat to a few of the butchers that we use, and they're finding that they have had a little bit of a downturn, but for us, we're 100% grass-fed. So I think that the more credible, the more sustainable producers are actually seeing an increase. So those people who are focusing on organic and grass-fed, they are actually seeing increased trade.
Now, how have you reassured yourself that the meat that you serve in your restaurant is raised and slaughtered to a sort of standard that you believe is ethically defensible? So
there's a number of things. Firstly, on all of our organic products, we actually know the actual farmers, and I have personally been to all the abattoirs where they get slaughtered, and it's quite funny. Some of the organic farmers are They so care about their animals so much that they won't send one or two animals because it'll scare them. So they make sure that they'll send 5 or 6 animals, and sometimes they even ride in the trucks with them just to make sure that the cows will be happy all the way to the slaughter.
Now, I don't know. I've never been inside an abattoir when it's been working. I've only been inside abattoirs when they've been. When I think I went to one which was newly built, and we did a little. They did a little tour beforehand, but I've never been in one that's working.
Well, I think you'll find the abattoirs in Australia are actually very, very good. And they've been driven by a number of things. The first thing they've been driven by is meat quality. So the more stressed an animal is, the poorer the meat quality, changes the pH level. Now, MSA standards have that eating quality is determined by 3 factors: colour, marbling, and pH level, right? So if you stress an animal, the pH of the body changes and it affects the meat. And so therefore it affects the eating quality. Now the abattoirs don't want to affect the eating quality of any of their meat. So they've introduced a whole lot of systems whereby it's actually very humane for the cattle. If you go into a lot of the more modern abattoirs now, you'll actually notice that there's a silence around there. Whereas previously there used to be all this noise as they were beating animals. There was they have this circular way that the cows actually get to the end kill point, and because cows are so inquisitive, they actually sort of look around the corner, and you'll notice that if you're in one of these stockyards, there's no extra noise. The cows are just sort of pretty calm, and then they sort of look around the corner, keep looking around the corner, and then finally stunned and gone.
I think that's such an interesting point, and it does tell you something about the way that this industry has become more sophisticated. So 30 years ago in Australia, I think that slaughterhouses were much rougher. They were much... we had a terrific caller who talked about going to a slaughterhouse in the 1970s and still remembering what he saw there, and the sort of carry on among the workers when something went wrong on the line. And I think that, these places used to be smaller, attached to almost village operations, like country town operations, very little supervision of what was going on. No prospect that there was no restaurant trade. I mean, the idea that someone like you would appear at their door and say, look, I'm buying this meat and I want to be able to reassure my customers, that would never have happened 30 years ago.
Yeah, I think that chefs or end users are getting much more concerned with the path that animals travel. So, obviously supermarkets, big meat distributors, they will take chefs out and actually tour the abattoirs so that you can see, there's a number of bacteria checks. They really are very, very anal about, oh, sorry, am I not allowed to say that?
You are. Don't worry, we're not that anal.
They're very anal about the hygiene and all their systems and procedures. So it's not really... It's so much... I actually thought that I would be absolutely horrified at it. And, let's face it, you're killing animals, so it's not a pleasant experience. But, as pleasant as it can be, the abattoirs they really do a good job.
Now, as far as it comes from there to your plate, to your place, your restaurant. How does this kind of thing also affect, I guess, the attitude of diners? So if greed and gluttony are part of the problem, that we're basically, inclined to eat too much, it's turning us all into, big porky kind of people anyway. Does something like this sort of scandal operate as a kind of wake-up call to people ordering steak? Are you seeing people ordering less, gargantuan steaks, the 1 kilo kind of?
Well, we have a couple of items on the menu that are about 1 kilo, but by far our number one seller is the eye fillet, which is 160 grams. Now, probably that's because most women will order it. But then we have 160, 200, 250. Those steaks are the ones that get mostly consumed. The 1 kilo is really sort of one of those, when people like Wendell Saylor and the footballers come in.
So it's a trophy type meal.
Yeah. We do a 1 kilo tagliata, which is, so it's sliced. So we recommend it to share. So we don't have that sort of 1 kilo right here. It is on the bone.
Now, your 160 gram. One of the things that dietitians say is that the perfect serve of protein fits into the palm of your hand. So that very much depends on how thick is your slice, of course. But 160 grams, is that a relatively small? It
would fit easily inside your hand.
Okay.
We use the eye fillet. The eye fillet is. It's got the least fat of all the steaks. So, the 160 gram is the ideal amount for and that's what I eat all the time. So day in, day out, I would eat a steak every day, and that's the one I eat. Unless I'm eating with other people, sometimes I have the prime rib because that's my favourite. But, day in, day out, I just eat the 160 gram.
And do you just like it to be pretty plain when you cook it? What's the way to cook the perfect steak? You're a steak guy?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're really there's a lot of arguments about how to cook the perfect steak, and really a lot of the things that you really have to make sure are, firstly, that you salt it or you season it. Secondly, that it's rested. Those are the two major things. Really, there is argument about whether you turn it a number of times. I have a method which I call my 2.5 minute perfect steak thing. So the MLA has done tests, and they say that if it's 2 to 2.5 centimetres thick, the steak, that's the best thing you can do in terms of guaranteeing the tenderness, given that a consumer can't really check the husbandry other than buy it from a decent butcher shop. So 2 to 2.5 centimetres makes it a tender steak, thinner, and it'll be tougher, thicker, and it's no added benefit. So I say 2 to 2.5 centimetres, you put it down for 2.5 minutes. You season it first in salt and black pepper. I like black pepper, but salt is the only thing that's really important. Put it down for 2.5 minutes, turn it 90 degrees after 2.5 minutes, turn it over for 2.5 minutes, turn it 90 degrees for 2.5 minutes, and then rest it for 2.5 minutes. And that should give you perfect medium rare steak done to perfection. And
you've nailed that in under 2.5 minutes. Good on you. Thanks so much for coming in, Craig.
No problem.
Craig McIndoe is the chef at Moo Moo, which is a very memorable steak restaurant. Now it's about a minute to, I wish I could say it was 2.5 minutes to 11. Wouldn't that be ideal? But I can't. I can say it's a minute to 11.